Last Thursday, we saw a negative or a bearish engulfing candle. Now, the last three times that we saw a bearish engulfing candle, they all led to a pullback. On this one, it was a 5%, and this one a little bit over 1%, and the most recent one is also 5%. Now, the difference here, you notice this candle here, it is different from the other three because the other three, they all closed with a, on the intraday, they all made a higher high, while this one is a lower high because this is the high. So we might not be considered this a valid possibility for this candle, this engulfing candle price pattern from last Thursday. But these two might be representative or the possibility for a possible pullback price action. So if this is only happening here, then we could see another all-time high from the S&P 500 and get a little bit of a shadow 1.5% or so, then basically just come down and fill this gap. Now, if we get this 5%, then we'd be watching the price to pull back somewhere near this gap to fill this gap. But notice that this is only a first leg of a pullback, and eventually it led to a 10% pullback. And if that's the case, this 10% pullback could bring the S&P 500 down to this 4,800 level, somewhere around this area here. And looking at the weekly chart of the S&P 500, we notice that the S&P 500 finished the week with 5 consecutive up week. And here are the last 3 times that the S&P 500 finished with 5 consecutive up week here. And notice that they all led to a higher high eventually. And the only difference is you notice that this candle here, these 5 consecutive up week, they all have bullish weekly candle that finished near the high of the week, while last week, the weekly candle finished as a doji spinning top, and that is an indecision type of a candle. So will we see a continuation to a new high, or will we see a pullback? And is this a red flag for us to be prepared for some sort of a pullback? Let's take a look at what the market participants are preparing for. We notice that the VIX is way low. Right now it's down at the low teen level near the 12. And it finished Friday with 11.93. But the put-call ratio is above this 0.75 level. So the market participant appear to be, fearless, but they are also exercising caution. And there seems to be putting some hedges also with the put-call ratio above this 0.75. And looking at this up-down volume ratio here, we noticed on Friday, we did get a little bit of a bounce, got some buying pressure on Friday. But throughout the week, we noticed that it started the week with a little bit of selling pressure, and it's accelerated on Thursday with a bond market sell-off. And we could see that from the daily advance. And also on Wednesday, it's kind of giving us a little bit of a heads up when we see such a negative AD line here, on the negative advance decline on Wednesday. Although we did see a little bit of a bond market advance on Friday on this little bit of a Friday bounce. And on the NYSE new 52-week high versus 52-week low, we're still getting a little bit of a positive, although the number of stocks that are making new 52-week high have come down a bit, but it is still positive and near that 100 mark. And the number of stocks making new low is still relatively flat and relatively low. And for the cumulative AD line, we are seeing it moving in sync with the S&P 500, but we'll like to wait to see a little bit of a positive divergence before we actually conclude this negative divergence have been resolved. And looking at the Nasdaq market, you notice on Thursday we have broad market selling on the Nasdaq. Other than Nvidia, if it wasn't for Nvidia, I think the damage would be much greater. On Thursday on the Nasdaq here, we did see a little bit of a bounce on Friday. But again, this market is basically being skewed by some of these mega cap tech stocks. And also on the Nasdaq new high, new low, we are seeing a little bit more new 52-week low than 52-week high. And for the AD line, the negative divergence is continue to be wider. You see that the Nasdaq 100 actually closed with a new all-time high, with the advanced decline line is way below this even its recent peak here from here. So this is definitely a warning flag to be on a lookout for possibility of a pullback on the Nasdaq. So what the market sentiment is telling us, along with the market internal, is the market is getting a little bit extended, and the participants are being a little bit more cautious now. So be careful that we could see a little bit of a pullback in the near term. And looking at this market profile for the E-mini S&P 500 future, we see that it is still in this balance area, although we got this huge negative engulfing bar here on Thursday, but it's still within this balance area. And again, we still have this Globex all-time high that need to get resolved. And that is the market message tell it to be on the lookout for another new high for the S&P 500 as it come up to resolve this Globex all-time high. And here we are looking at the daily chart for the ES, the E-mini S&P 500. As you can see, the market is pricing in basically the range of this Thursday engulfing candle here. The upper range is being priced in between 5368.25 and 5363.75, and the lower range is between 5277.75 and 52.55. So you can see that the price action, I think the market is pretty much pricing in for a continue to balance within this area here. Now, if we see a dip to come down here to this low volume area, then look for a bounce back up to possibly get up to this upper range, because we still have that Globex, that possibility of hitting that Globex all-time high. Although, yeah, we could see that pullback based on the S&P 500 chart about that engulfing candle, but also the other thing is, only there's one time that we saw a pullback of 5%, and then another time was a little bit over 1.5% or so, but it also was after a little bit of a bounce to a high before it pulled back to that 1.5%. So we have to keep an eye on this and just watch this area here near this 5280 and see would it break below this 5280. And if it does, then we're basically looking for a pullback to come down into this low volume area between 5174 and 5157. And for the SPY, likewise, the market is pricing in for this range of the Thursday engulfing candle. See the upper ranges between 533.70 and 533, and also the lower ranges between 525.90 and 524.30. So you can see that it is pricing in within this area. Once again, this is a balance area that it could just kind of chop around and consolidate a little bit before it make another move up to a new all-time high, or come back down and possibly maybe even come down to this area. But first, I'd be looking for a bounce off of this low volume area somewhere near this 524 area for a bounce back up if it pull back into this area. Now, if it breaks below this area and get back into this balance area, then yeah, we'll be possibly looking for a little bit more pullback into this 512 area. Now let's get an update on gold. You can see that gold made a new all-time high up here, and some people might be calling this as a double top, but this high is greater than this high here, so you cannot call it double top unless we come up and make a lower high. Then we could classify this as a double top. Now, you could have called this a double top, but it got invalidated as soon as that this high, taking out this high here, put in a new all-time high. So right now, looking at gold, it seems like it is trying to balance down to this level here at 2290.50. So I'll be watching for gold to see will it continue to pull back into this area here. Then I'd be on the lookout for a possible bounce and play gold back up. I don't believe gold had made its high yet. I still believe that it could go much higher. But hey, that's my belief. The market doesn't care what I believe. But in either case, we're gonna be keeping an eye at this level here, 2290.50. Now, with it could come up and get into this high volume area and chop around before it pushes back down. But the key here, once again, is 2290.50. Now, if you'd like to see additional content from me, be sure to go check out my newsletter at smtraderca.substack.com. And if you like this video and find it informative, be sure to smash that thumbs up to help promote this video. And if you are new to this channel, click the subscribe to help support this channel. Thank you for watching, and good luck on your trading.